This is pattern number 9 of the I Am Enough Quilt Along. Today we're going to be making half square triangles and half rectangle triangles. This method of half square triangle making makes 4 half square triangles at once. What we're going to do is we're going to take our squares, we're going to put them right sides together, just like this, and then we're going to go and sew all the way around the edges. And you can put a pin in to help you out. Here is what that looks like sewn up. Then you want to line your ruler up on the corners. We're a little off to the corners so that you make sure you're cutting directly on those corners. And then you're gonna cut just like that. And then don't move anything. Rotate around. And then you're gonna cut the opposite way as well. And then you've got half square triangles. So now we need to trim these guys down to 3.5 inches. I like to use this ruler, Quilt in a Day. And what you do is you take your 3.5 inch, it looks like a stitch line, and then you put it down on your actual stitch line. Hold it down, and then you'll trim these edges off. And when you move your ruler, you'll make a little cut like that on each of the bottom. Open it up. You will smooth down this seam open with your finger. And then I like to use just this little edge of my iron. And then I just want to not press, but just open it up. I'm not really pressing down at all. Flip him over. And then up and down. Don't do this because you're going to warp your half square triangle. They warp very easily. And there you go. So we're going to start making our half rectangle triangles. And this shape is pretty finicky, and it requires some patience and some thought on your part. You've cut up 10 of the prints and 10 of the background. What I want you to do is I want you to think about the top half rectangle triangles on the quilt. There are 12 half rectangle triangles at the top of your quilt. I want you to set aside a stack of 6 of your rectangles. For the bottom side of your quilt, there are 8 half rectangle triangles. So I want you to set 4 of your rectangles in this stack. Then I want you to take your background rectangles and then split those in half, okay? When you draw your line, it's very important for you to do half of them going in this direction, and then the other half, your line is drawn in this direction. Now that you've got that part organized, we're gonna organize one more part before we get started making. So this stack is your bottom half rectangle triangles, and this stack is your top half rectangle triangles. There's 4 in this stack, so we need to put 4 backgrounds with these. But we want to make sure we get both directions in this stack evenly. So we're going to put 2 going in each direction over here for our bottom half rectangle triangles. So just to be clear, you'll have one stack of 4 rectangles in print, and then you'll have a stack of 4 backgrounds. And you'll make sure that you've got 2 of each direction. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And then you're gonna put those in a stack here. For your top, you've got a stack of 6 rectangles in your print, and that means you need 3 of each direction in your background. So go ahead and let's put one stack aside. It doesn't matter what stack you start with, just so that we know we don't get anything mixed up. Now that we're organized, you're gonna take one of your print rectangles and you're gonna take one of your background rectangles. When you put them together, normally with a half square triangle we would do something like this, but that doesn't work with a half rectangle triangle. So we're just gonna twist it, and we're gonna put that diagonal line just like this. You can put a pin in it to help keep things together if you like. We're gonna do that for the rest of the stack as well. So you'll notice that you've got two different shapes. You've got two different directions happening. You've got two of them that are looking like this, and then you've got another two that are looking like that. Okay. You can put these together, and then you can go ahead and do the same thing for your top rectangle triangles. Reasons why I have put these organized into stacks this way is because I'm doing color families where my top half rectangle triangles are one color family, and then my bottom half rectangle triangles are a whole different color family. You don't have to do it that way. You can have them all mixed up. If you did want to have them all mixed up, you didn't need to make the stacks the same way I did. So the next step you want to do is sew a 1/4 inch on both sides of this line. And now all we need to do is cut directly on that drawn line. One rectangle will render you two half rectangle triangles that look exactly the same. So now we're going to press them, and we're going to do exactly the same thing that we did with our half square triangles. That we are going to press our seam open and then flip it over and press. And you'll do that for all of them. So there's a lot of ways to trim these half rectangle triangles down to the size you need them. But this is the easiest way that I have found, and that's to take a piece of copy paper. The size that we're going to cut today is 6.5 by 7.75. And we're going to take this copy paper, and we're going to make sure the corners of this copy paper are exactly on our stitch line. Then you're going to take these flat pins and then put them on each end. So here is how that looks. I've got that corner right there on that line, and then down here as well. I'm going to take my rotary cutter and my ruler, and I'm going to line it up using this paper template as a guide, and then I'm going to trim it. You do want to be careful not to cut your paper, and if you do cut your paper, you may want to cut another one. One perfectly sized half rectangle triangles where my points are coming right there at the corners. Now we're going to make our diamond. And if you don't want your diamond to look like that, you could do something like this. It'll make the diamond shape no matter which way you put it. So it's up to you how you want it to look. So you've got 4 pieces. We're going to sew these 2 together, and we're going to sew these 2 together. We need to press these pieces open. And then the other row. So now we're going to sew these 2 together. So we want to flip this one over. We want to match up our seams, and we're going to put a pin directly in those seams to keep them together. Very, very important on this step. We're not going to sew with our usual 1/4 seam allowance right here. We're going to sew with a 1/2 seam allowance. So I've sewn with a 1/2 inch seam. Time to press, and we're going to open it up just like all the other seams in this block. There's our diamond. You know you've got it correct when you've got a 1/4 inch on both sides. Getting this to look like this was the whole purpose of that 1/2 inch seam. Your block will also come out to be 6.5 by 12.5. So if you come up with something bigger than 12.5, it's because you didn't get the 1/2 inch seam in there.